Ethan Cole reviewed applications the old way. He knew it was inefficient. His HR director, Margaret, had told him so at least a dozen times. There were algorithms now, she said. Systems, weighted filters that could rank 200 candidates in the time it took him to read 3 cover letters. She had demonstrated one for him in the spring using last year's pool, and it had, in fact, done exactly what she said it would do. He had thanked her and told her he would consider it. He had not considered it. He still did it by hand. He sat at the long oak table in his office on the 32nd floor, the Chicago skyline pale and overcast beyond the glass, and he read, each folder in sequence, each name, each school, each line of experience and aspiration, assembled by someone who wanted something from him, and who had spent time trying to explain why they deserved it. He went slowly. He corrected for the tendency to form impressions from the first paragraph, and let the rest confirm what you already believed. He turned pages without hurrying. He respected that, the wanting, the effort of putting it into words. The stack was not small. Cole Capital ran a competitive internship program, 12 slots per cycle, and the spring pool had drawn 417 applicants. Margaret had pre-screened to 60. He was responsible for the final 20, from which the panel would select 12. It was a Thursday in November. And outside, the wind was doing something unkind to the flags on Michigan Avenue. He had been at this for 2 hours. He had drunk 2 cups of coffee. He had made notes in the margins of 13 folders, questions he wanted asked, angles worth exploring. One gentle no that he delivered with a small horizontal line through the candidate's name, which felt more honest than an X. He turned to the next folder. The name at the top was Lily Bennett. Economics. University of Washington. 3rd year. GPA noted, not remarkable, sitting in the range that suggested a person who had chosen to be interested rather than to be ranked. The cover letter was brief, 4 paragraphs, which he appreciated. The ones that ran to 2 full pages generally said less. She had worked 2 summers in a small investment firm in Seattle. Junior analyst work, the kind where you built models and debugged other people's assumptions and learned what competence looked like up close. The references were solid. The essay at the end of the packet was what stopped him. She wrote about compound interest, not as a mathematical concept, but as a metaphor, the idea that patient choices accumulate, that what you do quietly for years becomes visible all at once. She compared it to the slow growth of a forest. No individual tree's daily growth is noticeable, but return in a decade, and the landscape is entirely changed. She used no jargon. She never told the reader what to feel. She simply laid the idea out and let it stand. He liked that. He made a small checkmark in the margin. Then his eye moved to the personal information block at the bottom of the first page, the standardized section, and he read the date of birth, the 14th of September, 2005. He read it again, the 14th of September 2005. The room did not change. The wind still moved the flags outside. Somewhere down the hall, someone laughed at something and the sound came through the wall muffled and indistinct. Ethan put the folder down on the table, flat, the way you set something down when your hands need a moment to decide what to do next. He placed both palms on the table surface. The wood was cool. He was 44 years old. He did not need a calculator. He had the number before the calculation was finished. 19 years. 19 years ago, give or take a handful of months, was the autumn. He and Clara Whitfield had said goodbye in a lobby in New York City. And the way she had looked at him, not angry, not crying, just quiet, in a way that had always been worse than either had stayed with him, in the category of things he did not revisit on purpose. He had a category for those things. He kept it organized. He picked up the folder again, looked at the photograph in the upper corner, the small headshot required by the application. A young woman with light brown hair pushed back. Something careful in her expression. The photograph was not particularly good. The kind taken quickly against a neutral background. He looked at it the way you look at something when you are not sure what you are looking for, and when you are afraid of what you might find. He found nothing conclusive. He found enough to keep him from putting the folder aside. After a long moment, he wrote one word in the margin, below the check mark. Interview. His handwriting was steady. He was not. He left the office at 6:30. His son, Noah, was 12. And the housekeeper left at 6, which meant that for 30 minutes each evening there was a window of technical unsupervision that Noah had thus far not exploited in any way that required Ethan's formal attention. He had mentioned this to no one. The apartment was on Dearborn, 12 minutes from the office by car. Ethan walked it when the weather allowed, which Chicago did not always. Tonight he walked. He needed the cold. Noah was at the kitchen table when he came in. A geometry textbook open beside a plate of crackers, a pencil tucked behind his ear, in the manner of someone who had decided a pencil behind the ear was what serious work looked like. He glanced up when Ethan came through the door. "You're late." 30 minutes, Ethan said. "Mrs. Harlow left at 6. I know. I was alone for half an hour. You survived." Noah considered this assessment and seemed to find it acceptable. He returned to his geometry. Ethan hung his coat, washed his hands, and assembled dinner from what was in the refrigerator: leftover soup, bread, 2 oranges. He set Noah's portion on the table without announcing it, and sat across from him and ate without speaking. This was a routine they had developed without ever discussing it. Noah ate when the food appeared. Ethan ate when he sat down. Between bites, Ethan looked at the grain of the table. After a while, Noah said, "Do you remember a woman named Clara?" Ethan looked up. Noah was not looking at him. He was drawing something in the margin of his textbook, a small triangle inside a larger one. "You said her name once. When you thought I was asleep, on the phone, a long time ago." "I was like 8. Ethan set down his spoon. "Why?" he said. "Just wondered," Noah said. Still not looking up. "You had a voice." A different voice than normal. Ethan did not answer. He picked up his spoon again. Noah erased the triangle and drew it over. Later, after Noah was in his room, Ethan stood at the kitchen window and looked at the street below. The city went on doing what cities did. He thought about a lobby in New York. He thought about the way Clara had held her coat against her chest with both arms, like she was cold. Though it was September and not yet truly cold. He thought about how he had not said the thing he should have said, and how she had not waited to see if he would say it, and how the revolving door had taken her, and that had been that. He was 44 years old. He had a company. He had a son. He had built a life that by any reasonable measure was a good one. He did not think about what it was not. He made a point of not thinking about it. Tonight the point failed. They had met at a conference. Neither of them was supposed to be there. Ethan had been sent by his firm to fill a seat vacated by a senior partner who had developed food poisoning in spectacular fashion at a hotel in Midtown. Clara was presenting a paper on behavioral economics that had been accepted 6 months earlier when she was in a different city working for a different firm, and she had driven 4 hours rather than cancel, because canceling was not something she did. She had told him this later. He had believed it immediately. He had sat 3 rows from the front. She had spoken for 40 minutes without notes, which was unusual in that context, where most people read from slides or, at minimum, kept a page of bullet points on the podium as insurance. She did not need insurance. She spoke the way people speak, when they know what they think and have thought about how to say it carefully, and the combination produced something that felt less like a presentation and more like a conversation with a very precise and confident person who happened to be standing at the front of a room. He had not retained much of the content, which bothered him then, and would have bothered him more if he had understood at the time how rarely he would feel that particular kind of distraction again. The content, as he later reconstructed it, was about the gap between what people said they valued and what they actually chose under pressure. He found this ironic only much later. Afterward, he had found a reason to introduce himself. She had found a reason to continue the conversation past the point where conversations like that usually ended. They had eaten dinner at a place neither of them had chosen. A Thai restaurant 2 blocks from the conference hotel that had been suggested by the waiter who brought their cocktails, and they had talked until the staff began stacking chairs. He did not remember what they had talked about.